Elias Mercer stood at the observation deck of the Odysseus, watching the swirling alabaster clouds of Celestra grow larger as they approached. His palms were damp, and not just from the environmentally controlled air of the diplomatic vessel. After 15 years as a cultural anthropologist specializing in theoretical alien societies, he was about to become the first human to formally engage with the Celestrans, a species whose existence humanity had only confirmed 3 years ago. Nervous, Mercer? Captain Olivia Denton appeared beside him, her weathered face serious but kind. Don't be. Your doctoral thesis on potential communication frameworks with non-humanoid species is why you're here. Elias smiled tightly. My thesis was theoretical, Captain. No amount of simulation could prepare me for the real thing. You'll adapt, she said, clapping his shoulder. The Celestrans requested you specifically after reviewing our cultural database. Something about your work on emotional translation resonated with them. The docking procedure was seamless, almost disappointingly so. Elias had expected something dramatic, but the Celestran technology interfaced with their own as if they'd been designed together. The airlock hissed open, releasing a subtle fragrance like jasmine and cinnamon. And then she was there. Ambassador Talia stood nearly 7 feet tall, her body fluid and graceful with iridescent skin that shimmered between blue and violet. Her slender arms emerged from a torso that tapered to a narrow waist. Her face was almost human, but with large, compound eyes that reflected light like opals and no visible nose, just delicate gill-like structures that fluttered when she breathed. Cultural liaison Mercer. She spoke, her voice melodic and clearly produced by some translation device. Your presence honors us. Elias performed the formal greeting gesture they'd been taught. The honor is mine, Ambassador. Thank you for welcoming us to your world. Please, she said, her head tilting in what he recognized as their gesture of friendliness. When we are not in formal settings, call me Talia. The following days were a blur of diplomatic meetings and cultural exchanges. Elias found himself increasingly drawn to Talia's company. Unlike the other Celestran officials, she seemed genuinely curious about humans beyond political concerns. Your entertainment transmissions confuse me, she admitted one evening as they walked through the arboretum of the Celestran Diplomatic Center. Bioluminescent plants cast soft blue light across her features. This concept of romance, of choosing one individual above all others, it's beautiful but strange. Elias laughed. Many humans find it strange too, believe me. But you personally value this connection? Her opalescent eyes studied him intensely. He hesitated, unsure why her question made his heart race. Yes. Though I haven't been particularly successful at it. Fascinating. She stopped walking, turning to face him fully. In our culture, emotions are communal. Shared experiences rather than individual ones. Like a hive mind? He asked, immediately regretting the comparison. No, she corrected gently. We remain individuals, but our emotional resonance is designed to harmonize with others. It's difficult to explain in your language. Try me, he said softly. That's why I'm here. Her outer hands made a graceful gesture. When we form bonds, we don't seek to possess another's heart exclusively. We seek to amplify each other's capacity for joy and understanding. That sounds beautiful, Elias said honestly. Would you? She hesitated, her skin flushing deeper violet. Would you wish to experience our culture more directly? My family compound is nearby. My sisters have expressed interest in meeting you. Something in her tone made Elias suspect this wasn't a standard diplomatic invitation. Despite protocol suggesting he declined personal invitations, he found himself nodding. I'd be honored, Talia. Her smile was subtle, just a slight shift in her features, but it filled him with unexpected warmth. Tomorrow, then, I will arrange everything. As he returned to his quarters that night, Elias couldn't shake the feeling that he stood at the threshold of something profound, something that would challenge everything he thought he knew about connection, about intimacy, about love itself. The transport pod glided silently over Celestra's crystal forests, their prismatic structures catching the light of twin suns and fracturing it into kaleidoscopic patterns. Elias pressed his hand against the transparent view screen, mesmerized. Our ancestors cultivated these forests millennia ago, Talia explained, her voice soft with pride. The crystals absorb atmospheric toxins and convert them to oxygen. They also amplify emotional resonance. Emotional resonance? Elias asked. Talia's skin rippled with subtle phosphorescence, a Celestran smile. You'll understand soon. The pod descended toward an elegant structure that seemed to grow organically from the landscape, curved spires and flowing archways constructed from a pearlescent material that reminded Elias of nacre. "My family has lived here for 13 generations," Talia said as they landed. "It is special to share this with you." Inside, the air carried the same jasmine cinnamon scent he'd noticed on first contact, but stronger, more intoxicating. The central chamber opened to the sky, with a pool of luminous liquid at its center. "Ambassador Talia, welcome home." A voice like chiming bells drew Elias's attention to a Celestran approaching from a side corridor. She resembled Talia but was slightly shorter, her skin a deeper violet with gold undertones. "Elias, this is Vieira, my eldest sister," Talia said. "Cultural liaison Mercer." Vieira performed a formal gesture, but her eyes, a striking amber, studied him with unmistakable curiosity. "Your journals on cross-species empathy are remarkable. I particularly enjoyed your thesis on emotional translation as the foundation of true diplomacy." Elias blinked in surprise. "You've read my work?" "We all have," came another melodic voice. Two more Celestrans entered, their movements synchronized like dancers. "My sisters, Nareen and Kaida," Talia introduced. The one called Nareen had skin that shimmered green-blue, while Kaida was the most alien-looking of the four, with delicate crystalline structures protruding from her shoulders that caught the light and refracted it. "It's wonderful to meet you," Elias said, attempting the Celestran greeting gesture. He fumbled slightly, and Kaida's musical laughter filled the room. "Allow me," she said, stepping forward. Her lower arms gently positioned his hands correctly. Her touch sent a strange tingling sensation up his arms, not unpleasant but startling. "Kaida," Talia chided softly. "Remember that humans experience touch differently." "I apologize," Kaida said, stepping back. "I forget myself." "No harm done," Elias assured her, though he could still feel the ghost of her touch on his skin. Their afternoon unfolded in a series of cultural exchanges. The sisters showed him their living spaces, not private rooms as humans would have, but shared areas with different functions. A meditation chamber filled with the crystal formations he'd seen outside. A communal bathing pool where the luminous liquid glowed in response to emotional states. A knowledge center with technology so seamlessly integrated with the architecture that Elias could hardly distinguish between them. "And where do you sleep?" he asked innocently. The four sisters exchanged glances that contained some communication he couldn't decipher. "We rest in the convergence chamber," Nareen explained, gesturing toward an opaque doorway. "But that is shared only with family and bondmates." The way she said bondmates made Elias's skin warm. Later, they dined on fruits that dissolved on the tongue like sponge sugar and produced gentle euphoria. As night fell, the crystal structures throughout the dwelling began to glow with soft blue light. "The crystals respond to emotional states," Vieira explained, noticing his fascination. "When Celestrans gather, our emotional resonance influences their luminosity. They're glowing more brightly around you." "Elias," Nareen observed. "Your emotions must be particularly strong. Or perhaps particularly beautiful," Talia added softly. After dinner, Talia led him to a balcony overlooking the crystal forest. The structures pulsed with light in patterns that reminded him of heartbeats. "Your sisters are quiet, attentive," Elias remarked, unsure if he was imagining the heightened interest from all four Celestrans. "They are curious about you," Talia replied. "Humans fascinate us. Your capacity for individual emotional depth while maintaining separate consciousness, it's unique among species we've encountered." "And what about you?" Elias asked, emboldened by the fruit's lingering euphoria. "Am I just a fascinating specimen to you as well?" Talia turned to him, her opalescent eyes reflecting the crystal lights. "No, Elias. You are much more." Her upper hand reached out, fingertips hovering just above his cheek. "May I?" He nodded, and her touch against his skin sent waves of warmth cascading through him. It wasn't just physical, somehow. He could feel her curiosity, her admiration, her growing affection. What is that?" he gasped. "Emotional resonance," she whispered. "The beginning of understanding." Her face moved closer to his. Not quite a human kiss, but something equally intimate. Her gill-like structures fluttering against his skin, sharing breath, sharing essence. Around them, the crystals pulsed with intense blue light, throwing their silhouettes against the night sky, like lovers caught in a flash of lightning. Dawn on Celestra brought a shower of prismatic light, as the twin suns filtered through the crystal forest. Elias woke in the guest chamber, still feeling the lingering warmth of Talia's touch from the previous night. The moment had been brief but profound, an exchange not just of physical contact, but something deeper, as if she had somehow transmitted her emotions directly into his consciousness. He dressed slowly, wondering if he had crossed a diplomatic line. Fraternization protocols existed for a reason, yet this felt different from any connection he'd experienced before. More significant, more real. When he entered the central chamber, he found Noreen alone, meditating beside the luminous pool. Her eyes opened as he approached, their silver-green depths catching the light. "You slept well?" she asked, rising gracefully. "Yes, thank you." He hesitated. "Is Talia nearby? I wanted to discuss last night." "She's attending to diplomatic matters, but will return soon." Noreen gestured for him to join her by the pool. "Your emotional signature changed after your moment with her." The crystals responded strongly. Elias felt heat rise to his face. You could tell. Her laughter was like wind chimes. Celestrans experience emotions communally, remember? What one feels, others sense, especially family. Before he could process the implications, Kaida and Vieira entered with a morning meal. Throughout breakfast, Elias noticed subtle differences in how the sisters interacted with him, lingering touches when passing food, intense eye contact, positions shifted to maintain proximity. What had been curious interest yesterday now felt like something more deliberate. Afterward, Vieira offered to show him the knowledge center. As she guided him through Celestran history, her lower hands occasionally brushed against his, sending small jolts of what he now recognized as emotional resonance. Her fascination, her intellectual appreciation of his perspective. "Your species values isolation in relationships," she observed as they examined a holographic representation of Celestran family structures. One bond, deeply forged, to the exclusion of others. "Not all humans practice monogamy," Elias clarified, "but yes, exclusivity is common." "Fascinating," she murmured, her amber eyes studying him. "Would you find it difficult to connect with multiple individuals in meaningful ways?" Something about her phrasing made him pause. Before he could respond, they were interrupted by Kaida requesting his presence in the crystal garden. Outside, Kaida showed him how to activate the resonance in the crystals, her 4 hands guiding his movements with delicate precision. Each touch carried emotional impressions, her playfulness, her wonder, her growing fondness. "You're unusually receptive for a human," she remarked as a crystal responded to their combined touch, glowing brighter. "Most non-Celestrans can't sense emotional resonance so quickly." "It's overwhelming," he admitted. "But not unpleasant?" Her crystalline shoulder structures caught the light as she tilted her head inquiringly. "No," he answered honestly. "Just unfamiliar." Her eyes brightened. Unfamiliar can become cherished with time. The afternoon found him with Noreen in the meditation chamber, where she guided him through Celestran mindfulness practices. Unlike the others, her connection seemed more spiritual, the resonance conveying tranquility and deep curiosity about his consciousness. "Your mind is beautiful," she told him. "Distinct, yet harmonious. You would integrate well within a convergence." Before he could ask what she meant, Talia returned. The atmosphere shifted immediately, all 4 sisters gathering around them with an anticipatory energy Elias couldn't decipher. "I believe it's time we were honest with Elias," Talia said, leading him to a sitting area in the central chamber. The sisters arranged themselves around them, an attentive semicircle that suddenly made him nervous. "Have I misunderstood something?" he asked. Talia took his hands in her upper pair. "Elias, when Celestrans form bonds, what you might call romantic or intimate connections, we do so as a family unit." He blinked, processing her words. "I'm not sure I understand." "My sisters and I, we are a bonding unit," she explained. "When one forms a connection outside our species, all participate in the courtship. The bond must be harmonious with all, or it cannot exist at all." Comprehension dawned slowly. "Are you saying all of you have been courting me together?" Vieira leaned forward. "Your culture values individual pairing. Ours values familial harmony. A mate bonds not to one Celestran, but to their family unit." The touches, the emotional resonance, Elias looked between them. That wasn't just cultural exchange. "No," Kaidao admitted. "It was the beginning of bonding. We should have explained sooner," Noreen added gently. "But we feared your human perspective might prejudice you against understanding." Elias stood abruptly, mind reeling. His training in xenoanthropology had prepared him for cultural differences, but the personal implications overwhelmed him. He'd been developing feelings for Talia. Genuine, compelling feelings. But this revelation transformed everything. "I need time," he said finally. "This is very different from human relationships." "Of course," Talia replied, her eyes dimming slightly. "We ask only that you consider with an open mind. What seems foreign can sometimes be exactly what we never knew we needed." As he retreated to his chamber that night, the crystals throughout the dwelling pulsed with a melancholy blue light, reflecting the confusion and conflicted desire that churned within him. He touched his chest where he could still feel the ghostly impressions of 4 distinct emotional signatures, each calling to him in ways he never thought possible. Morning found Elias packing his belongings, comm unit in hand. Captain Denton answered on the first signal, her face concerned on the small screen. "Everything all right, Mercer? Your scheduled check-in isn't for another day." "I'm requesting extraction," he said, then hesitated. How could he explain the situation without sounding unprofessional? "There are cultural complications." The captain's eyes narrowed. "Diplomatic incident?" "No, nothing like that." He sighed. "Personal complications." Understanding dawned on her face. "I see. The shuttle can reach you by nightfall if necessary." "Thank you. I'll confirm in a few hours." He ended the transmission, staring at the packed bag. Was he really going to flee? After years of studying theoretical xenoanthropology, was he too rigid to accept practices different from his own? A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. "Enter," he called. Vieira stepped into the room, amber eyes taking in his packed bag without surprise. "You're leaving us." It wasn't a question, but he answered anyway. "I'm considering it." She moved to the window, looking out at the crystal forest. "When I was young, a devastating illness swept through our community. I was the only one in our family unit affected." Her voice was contemplative. "My sisters sustained me through our emotional resonance. For 3 cycles of the moons, they took shifts, maintaining constant connection, channeling their strength into me." She turned to face him. "Had I been bound to just one, I would have perished. This is what family bonding means to us. Not simply shared physical pleasure, but shared survival, shared strength." "It's beautiful," Elias admitted. "But I'm human. I don't have your abilities. I can't give what you need." "Can't you?" she asked. "You felt our resonance. You've responded. You're more capable than you realize." Before he could respond, she crossed to him and gently took his hand in her lower pair. The now familiar warmth spread up his arm, but this time, the emotional resonance carried something different: memories. He saw Vieira as a child, learning to channel resonance with her sisters, felt her pride when she mastered complex diplomatic protocols, experienced her wonder when she first read his papers on cross-species empathy. "This is how I see you," she whispered. "Not as some exotic other, but as a mind that seeks to bridge worlds." When she departed, Elias sat in stunned silence. Just as he'd collected himself, Kaida appeared, crystalline structures glinting in the morning light. "Walk with me," she asked. In the garden, Kaida showed him a plant that responded to touch, its fronds curling around his fingers with delicate precision. "Like this plant, Celestrans evolved to form connections," she explained. "Isolation is painful for us. Even physically painful." "I don't want to cause pain," he said softly. She turned to him, her vivid blue eyes earnest. "Then don't judge what you haven't fully experienced." She cupped his face in her hands, and this time the resonance carried playfulness, adventure, the joy of discovery. He saw star systems through her eyes, felt her delight in finding unusual life forms, experienced her passionate defense of endangered crystal formations. Her spirit was wild, free, yet deeply connected to her sisters. "This is how I see you," she told him. A fellow explorer, unafraid of new frontiers. Afternoon brought Noreen to his door with an invitation to the meditation chamber. There, surrounded by humming crystals, she guided him into a state of profound calm. "Your consciousness has distinct boundaries," she observed. "You protect yourself from deep connection out of fear." "Isn't that natural?" he asked. "Natural, perhaps, but limiting." Her resonance was different, not memories or emotions, but a sense of expanded awareness. Through her, he experienced consciousness as a flowing river rather than an isolated pool. He saw how the sisters' minds complemented each other, creating harmonies impossible alone. "This is how I see you," she said. "A consciousness poised for evolution, ready to transcend old limitations." Twilight painted the crystal forest in shades of purple and gold when Talia found him at the balcony, comm unit in hand. "Have you called for extraction?" she asked quietly. "Not yet." She stood beside him, her presence both comforting and electrifying. My sisters have shared their perspectives with you. They have. Would you hear mine before you decide? He nodded, and she took both his hands in hers. The resonance between them was immediate and powerful, not just emotions or memories, but something that felt like truth in its purest form. He experienced her first encounter with human cultural transmissions, felt her fascination with the concept of romantic love, lived her nervous excitement when the diplomatic mission was announced, experienced her growing affection as she came to know him. This is how I see you, she whispered. Not as human or other, but as the missing harmony in our convergence. When the resonance faded, Elias stood silent for a long moment, looking out at the pulsing lights of the crystal forest. The comm unit felt heavy in his pocket. In human stories, he said finally, there's a concept called the leap of faith. A moment when logic and caution must yield to something more profound. And what does this leap require? She asked. Courage, he answered. And trust. He pulled out the comm unit, considered it briefly, then set it aside. Tell me about this convergence ceremony. The crystal forest blazed with blue-white light, as if in response, and Talia's face transformed with joy. It is not something we can explain, she said, taking his hand. Only something we can show you. The convergence chamber glowed with soft bioluminescence as Elias entered. Crystal formations more intricate than any he'd seen before spiraled from floor to ceiling, creating a natural cathedral. At the center lay a circular pool of the luminous liquid he'd observed throughout the dwelling, but here it pulsed with vibrant colors, azure, violet, emerald, and amber, the signature hues of the four sisters. They awaited him, dressed in diaphanous garments that seemed woven from light itself. Their skin shimmered with heightened phosphorescence, and the crystalline structures on Kaida's shoulders had grown more pronounced, casting rainbow prisms across the walls. You've chosen to remain, Talia said, extending her hands in welcome. To experience the convergence. I have, Elias affirmed, his voice steadier than he felt. His anthropologist's curiosity mingled with something deeper, a longing to understand, to connect in ways his human experience had never offered. Vieira approached with a chalice of iridescent liquid. This will enhance your natural receptivity to our resonance. It is not required, but for a non-Celestran, it eases the transition. Elias accepted the chalice. Is it safe for humans? We analyzed your physiology, Noreen assured him. It will temporarily alter your neurochemistry to better receive emotional resonance, nothing more. He drank. The liquid tasted like starlight might, if such a thing were possible, bright and ancient, and somehow alive. Warmth spread from his chest outward, and the crystal formations around them seemed to pulse in time with his heartbeat. Now we begin, Kaida said, her usual playfulness subdued by reverence. The sisters formed a circle around him, their movements synchronized in a slow, graceful dance. They guided him to the edge of the pool. The convergence is not merely symbolic, Talia explained. It creates a genuine psychic bond, temporary for now, but with potential to deepen over time. What will I experience? Elias asked, watching the swirling colors in the pool intensify. Each of us, Noreen answered. And all of us. Our individual consciousness and our shared harmony. And what will you experience? You, Vieira said simply. Your singular perspective, your unique way of perceiving reality. This is the gift you bring to our convergence. Individuality without isolation. As if responding to some unheard signal, all four sisters stepped into the pool, the luminous liquid rising to their waists. They extended their hands to him, for distinct beings offering one unified invitation. Elias hesitated only a moment before joining them. The liquid was warm and seemed to caress his skin with gentle intelligence, like being embraced by a living entity. He felt strangely weightless, as if the boundaries of his physical form were becoming permeable. The sisters moved closer, forming a circle with him at the center. Each placed one hand over his heart and another at the base of his skull. Their touch no longer felt alien but essential, as if completing a circuit within him that had always been unfinished. Open your mind, Talia whispered. Let go of boundaries. The resonance began slowly, a gentle pulse of emotion and consciousness flowing between them. Then it intensified, transforming from separate streams into a symphony of awareness. Elias gasped as his perception expanded exponentially. He was Vieira, feeling her diplomatic calculations, her strategic brilliance, her fierce protection of family bonds. He experienced her childhood memories, her adult struggles, her her moment of recognition when she first read his work and thought, here is a mind that might understand us. He was Kaida, wild, adventurous, hungry for new experiences, collecting sensations like precious artifacts. He felt her joy in discovery, her frustration with limitations, her surprise when she realized his consciousness could receive her resonance so clearly. He was Nareen, contemplative, spiritually attuned, perceiving reality as patterns of energy rather than solid matter. He shared her meditative states, her connection to the living crystal matrix of their world, her gentle hope that this unprecedented bond might succeed. He was Talia, caught between worlds, fascinated by differences yet longing for unity. He felt her first moment of attraction to him, not as physical desire but as recognition of complementary consciousness. He understood her fear that he would reject their ways, her joy when he chose to stay. And somehow, miraculously, they were him, experiencing human individuality, the strange beauty of a mind evolved for autonomy yet eternally seeking connection. Through their perception, he saw his own loneliness, his scholarly detachment, his yearning for something his own culture couldn't provide. The convergence deepened until the distinction between 5 separate beings blurred into a harmonious whole. Not erasing differences but celebrating them, creating something greater than its parts. Elias understood then what Celestran bonding truly meant, not possession or exclusivity, but mutual enhancement, each consciousness strengthening the others while remaining distinct. The crystal formations around them blazed with light, responding to their unified emotional field. Time lost meaning in the convergence state. It could have been minutes or hours when the resonance gently began to recede, allowing individual consciousness to reemerge. As the sisters withdrew their touch, Elias felt not diminished but expanded. The bond remained, a subtle awareness of 4 other consciousnesses now linked to his own, not invasively but supportively, like a safety net beneath a tightrope walker. They helped him from the pool, his legs unsteady not from weakness but from profound recalibration of his senses. The world looked different, more vibrant, more connected. He could feel the subtle emotional currents between the sisters without their touch, could sense the living awareness in the crystal formations around them. What happens now? He asked, his voice husky with emotion. Now we learn each other, Talia said, her eyes reflecting the same wonder he felt. Day by day, moment by moment. The convergence is not an ending but a beginning. The bond will stabilize over time, Vieira explained. Distance will not break it, though proximity strengthens it. You remain yourself, Nareen assured him, sensing his lingering concerns. But now you are also part of something larger. Kaida's laughter bubbled up, breaking the solemnity. And we get to learn all those fascinating human customs you've been so reluctant to share. Elias found himself laughing with her, the sound carrying notes of all their voices somehow. Outside, the crystal forest pulsed with multicolored light, as if celebrating a harmony found at last. I came here to study alien cultures, he said, looking at the 4 extraordinary beings who now shared his consciousness. I never expected to become part of one. The best diplomacy, Talia said, taking his hand, is not just understanding difference, but embracing it. As the twin sons of Celestra rose again, painting the crystal forest in prismatic light, Elias Mercer, human, individual, now paradoxically part of a collective bond, found himself at the threshold of something unprecedented. A love that transcended not just cultural boundaries, but the very definition of connection itself.